It is now my pleasure and honor to introduce our presenter this evening. Fleet Maull, PhD, CMTP, is an author, mindfulness teacher, management consultant, trainer, and executive coach who facilitates deep transformation for individuals and organizations through his philosophy and program of radical responsibility. Dr. Maull currently serves as the CEO and Director of Training, Research and Development for Prison Mindfulness Institute, Center for Mindfulness in Public Safety, and the Engaged Mindfulness Institute. As well, he is the founder and CEO of Karpman Institute and Windhorse Seminars and Consulting. Dr. Maull is a pioneer and thought leader in the mainstream mindfulness movement, developing cutting-edge mindfulness-based and trauma-informed leadership trainings, transformational seminars, and consulting and coaching programs that he delivers in diverse business, nonprofit, and government settings, including his pioneering work in developing mindfulness-based emotional intelligence and mindfulness-based wellness and resiliency training programs. Dr. Maull is a certified mindfulness teacher and advisory board member with the International Mindfulness Teachers Association and a board member with the Institute for Organizational Mindfulness. Thank you for joining us this evening, Fleet.
Thank you for having me, John. Thank you very much. And thank you, Robert. And thank you, Katie, for that wonderful introductory practice. And welcome, everyone, both everyone who's here with us at the moment and all those of you who may watch or listen to this recording later. So tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing something that's been incredibly powerful and beneficial, really transformative sort of psychological distinction or model for my life and for really countless others, for really hundreds of thousands, probably millions of people. And that is Stephen Karpman's drama triangle. Stephen Karpman is a psychologist who is probably best known for being connected with transactional analysis, or TA. And he developed this psychological model, and it's grounded in such an obvious human dynamic. Sometimes I'm surprised he gets credit for it, but he does. And he actually did name it, and he named it in a very particular way. And he's still around. Stephen's still with us, and you can look him up, Stephen Karpman, and look up the drama triangle. And it's been an important part of my work for a long time, and I've been adapting it in various ways with his permission. And in our work with public safety and criminal justice professionals, as well as with incarcerated populations, this has probably been one of the most impactful things we've had to offer, along with the basic practices of mindfulness and self-regulation and so forth. This insight into the nature of drama and human suffering can be incredibly liberating for people. And in our mindfulness-based wellness and resiliency programs with public safety professionals, we hear again and again that three of the things that they most value are the simple self-regulation tools that we provide that are easy to learn, with which they can regulate their own physiology and thus their own emotions and behaviors and be more in the driver's seat of their own life. The opportunity to be in community practice groups with their peers, just like we are here this evening, and have genuine dialogue. And then thirdly, Karpman's drama triangle. Because once we actually see this and recognize this very prevalent human dynamic, we then have the options of how much of it we decide to participate in or not. And that can be incredibly liberating. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So I invite everyone here to just open up the chat function and be ready with your fingers to type in something. And when I say the word drama, what comes to mind? Drama. Just immediately, what comes to mind? First thought, best thought, drama. What comes to mind? We'll see what people come up with here. So pettiness, conflict. What else? Keep going. Drama. What comes up when you hear the word drama? Of course, we've all heard the expression a drama king or a drama queen as well. The notion of drama. What? Conflict, teenagers, bullying. Yeah, sometimes people just say work, right? Or certain people definitely say teenagers, middle school, old brain. Yeah. So we often have some pretty negative associations with the word drama. Of course, I kind of said it in a way to evoke that. But what does drama really mean? Drama means there's something going on that, kind of worthy of our attention. There's something of elevated interest, right? And so is drama always negative? No. What are some examples? Go ahead and type in some examples of positive, healthy human drama, things that are normal, healthy parts of our life, but they are dramatic. Anybody? Go ahead and type in something, some examples of healthy human drama. One of my favorite examples happens to be going on right now. Literature, the birth of a child. Literature can kind of go either way, because this dynamic that, as we'll see, this is really at the core of literature and plays and movies and so forth. And it can sometimes weddings. Yeah, I mean, I hope, most of us probably have been at the birth of a child. We may not remember, but we were there. But many of us have been there as parents, and we'll probably never forget that moment when our child was born. And weddings, I mean, all over the world, people laugh and cry and dance at weddings. Some weddings go on in some cultures for several weeks. Losses, absolutely, and the end of life and so forth. So, and I said one of my favorite examples is going on right now, and that's the Olympics, right? Now, unfortunately, that other kind of human drama does sometimes infuse the Olympics as well. But in general, in its best sense, you have these athletes who just what the level of dedication and sacrifice it takes to get to that Olympic stage. And they may be considered the best in the world in their sport or their discipline. They may have won the world championship 2 years ago, but they may or may not win that gold medal, right? Will they give their best performance? So it's, again, an example of what I would think of as healthy human drama in its best sense, right? So, yeah. So drama is not necessarily negative, but then there is that drama that we all know about, that toxic negative drama that creates a lot of suffering and can really undermine our lives, undermine families, be very destructive for children, lead to divorce, can undermine communities and organization, and plays out on the world stage as endless conflict and war and human suffering. So we all know about that kind of negative, toxic drama. So if you're going to have a good drama, whether we think of it as positive or negative here, but you think of a good drama, good television whodunit or procedural crime show, or what does it take to have a good drama? What are you need some suspense, you need something at stake. Often there's unfortunately often sex and violence involved. But what are three of the main characters you need to have a good drama? Three of the main characters you need to have a good drama. Somebody go ahead and type those in. Good guy, bad guy. Well, it could be a good girl, bad girl. Let's be fair now. Right. Good guy, bad guy. So often we call it the villain and the hero. And then what's that third role? The protagonist and antagonist, if we want to get, really formal about it in literary terms. But there is a third role. What's that third role that the villain and the hero kind of constellate around? What's that third role? Anybody? Sometimes the victim, or sometimes in your classic melodrama, it was the damsel in distress, right? I don't know if anybody remembers, that classic melodrama with the Canadian Mountie riding into the rescue on his big white horse, Dudley Do-Right, and the evil banker, Snidely Whiplash, with the big oiled handlebar mustache and long black coat and top hat, and then you had Nell, short for Penelope, the damsel in distress, right? And that's your classic melodrama. And you have these three characteristic roles. John, I don't know if I have, can you give me screen sharing privileges here?
You should have those, Fleet.
All right, so we'll close the chat for just a moment, and let me get this going here. Let's see, slideshow. Whoop, I don't want that. And slideshow, and there we go. All right, there we go. And now we'll share the screen. Okay. So Karpman's drama triangle. There you go. So he identified these three classic roles and how they show up in our human psychology and behavior. And well, that came up a little out of alignment there. But at any rate, we have down at the bottom of this triangle, we have the victim. At the upper left, we have what he called the villain was the persecutor, and what he called the hero or the good guy, good girl was the rescuer. And it's very important to realize that these are not labels we're putting on people. We're not calling people victims, persecutors, and rescuers. Rather, these are mindsets and psychological positions that we all gravitate through all the time. Now, I want to make something really clear here. In talking about the drama triangle, I'm not in any way, not in the slightest, being dismissive of the fact or not validating the fact that people are victimized. Also, this is a conversation about adults, not about children. Children deserve and need to be protected. And we also know that adults are victimized in terrible ways, and they may need to have that validated and a lot of support. And this isn't about telling somebody you need to get off that. And no, but this is more the mindset that we can get stuck in. And it may be very reasonable when terrible things happen to us that we stay stuck in that mindset for a long time. We should have tremendous compassion for ourselves and others, I believe. But we also go through these positions around all kinds of garden variety stuff all day long. And we can start with the small stuff before we think about moving on to the big stuff. So I want to normalize what we mean by the victim mindset. What we mean by that is any time that I'm even mildly upset, frustrated, irritated, dissatisfied, unhappy, even mildly so, and I attribute the causation of my feelings, the causation of my internal emotional experience or state to someone or something outside myself. Well, of course, we all do that all the time. And it feels very compelling, right? Somebody says or does something, and immediately I'm feeling upset. I'm feeling angry or upset or scared or sad or disappointed or frustrated, right? Stressed out, whatever it is, right? So it feels like our emotions are caused by things coming at us from outside ourselves. And we're going to explore that to see if that's really actually the case. All right, so we're going to explore this in a little more depth here. So I'm going to minimize that. So let's talk more about that victim mindset or victim position. So the context is often, poor me, right? And feeling helpless and powerless. And, that's kind of the context of the victim. I'm helpless, I'm powerless. And the actions are often involved with complaining and blaming and sometimes attention seeking and can be, tantrum throwing and manipulative behaviors. The orientation is always around problems and complaints. The actions are reactive and blaming. And again, the feelings are feeling like helpless, powerless, also can be anxious, afraid, hurt, angry, hopeless, depressed. And it's really that sense of I don't have any power. I'm being victimized, right? I'm not happy and it's being caused by things outside of my control. That's what we mean by the victim mindset. And we all have that experience. We're not invalidating the fact that we have that experience. The question is, what do we do with that? Well, sometimes what we do with it in an effort to regain control is we move into the persecutor mindset. And there, the context is, I'm right and you're wrong. And the actions are criticizing, judging, blaming, controlling, dominating, even being attacking or abusive. And what am I doing there? I'm trying to regain control in some way. I'm looking for power. And the orientation is still around problems and complaints. The mode is reactive and often attacking. And how do I feel when I'm in that mindset? I feel anxious or fearful or self-righteous, superior, defensive, angry, right? And we say the underlying position is the victim mindset. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, what we mean is, if I'm engaging in controlling behaviors, dominating behaviors, what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for control and power. Well, if I need to do that, that must indicate that underlying that, I feel what? Why would I have to go looking for that? Because I feel what? I feel powerless or out of control, right? And what do we call that? We call that the victim mindset. So the persecutor mindset is driven by the victim mindset. And we actually know anyone who becomes a chronic abuser in life, a chronic persecutor, they themselves were severely victimized as children. I mean, we just know that's a fact. It doesn't excuse the behaviors, but we know that. Hurt people, right? So then you have the rescuer position. Now, sometimes people need rescuing, right? I mean, if there's a mining accident or an avalanche or a child falls down a well or something like that, right? But we're not talking about that kind of rescue. Here, what we're talking about is psychological rescuing. And that's where we're ostensibly helping someone, but I need to do it from up here, right? I need to be in that one-up position, right? I'm the fixer. Don't forget, you're the victim, I'm the rescuer. Well, no, stay back down there. I'm in this one-up position, right? So the context here is I know and you don't. I'm the expert, I'm the fixer. The actions involve rescuing, saving, fixing, enabling, colluding, disempowering. We're actually colluding with the victim mindset, enabling other people to stay in the victim mindset, which means we're disempowering them ultimately. And it can actually be very demeaning, right? We're saying to someone, you can't handle your own life. I'm going to rescue you. And the orientation is around problems and fixing. And sometimes we get into that savior martyr complex. We're running around saving the world, but we never feel appreciated enough. So we feel like martyrs. The mode is, again, reactive. All these are reactive and fixing. And we often may feel smug or superior, self-righteous, heroic, unappreciated, overwhelmed, because we're running around saving the world and we don't feel appreciated or we feel overwhelmed. And again, we say the underlying position is the victim mindset. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, why would Fleet get into his rescuer thing? Like, oh, if I don't show up for work today, that place is going to fall apart. They couldn't run it by themselves if the life depended on it. Or, everybody comes with me with their problems. I don't know why. I guess it's because I'm a good listener. Everybody needs, I'm just so needed to fix everybody's life, right? Why would I gravitate to that psychological position, that mindset? Because that's where I feel strong. That's where I feel a sense of power and control, right? So again, moving into that psychological behavior is driven by an underlying feeling of powerlessness or helplessness or insecurity. So this whole drama triangle is really driven by the victim mindset, feeling helpless, powerless, insecure, out of control. And these are all attempts to gain power. And we would say they're kind of shadowy attempts to gain. It works on some level. We wouldn't do this if there weren't payoffs for it. But, we call this kind of the junk food of the emotional world. I talk about the drama zone, right? And some of the classic behaviors we engage in when we're caught in the drama triangle is we blame others instead of taking ownership for things. We justify our own behaviors. We hold on to resentments like ammunition, old feelings, and then we love to be right? We get addicted to being right. We'd rather be right than be in a relationship. We'll get divorced over being right. We'll lose our kids over being right. Human beings will kill over being right? So, these are classic drama zone, drama triangle behaviors, and they have an emotional payoff. But I kind of call this the junk food of our emotional life. There's a quick payoff, but lasting suffering. So this drama triangle just creates endless suffering. So I'm just curious if people could maybe type something in a chat or nod your heads or anything. Is this kind of landing? Do you recognize this as a human? Do you see this out in the world? Do you see this in your lives, this dynamic, the drama triangle? Anybody see any dramas going on at work, at home? You see, when you turn on the TV, you see any of this kind of drama? I mean, you turn on the news, what do you see, right? Our political landscape, it's just crazy today with this stuff, right? What's the most popular genre in television today? What's the most popular genre? Anybody? Crime shows, that's one. What's the second most? Maybe I don't know which one's most popular, but another very popular genre. Reality TV. Reality TV kind of replaced soap operas, right? They used to have soap operas, which are just classic drama, often not that well acted, but in a classic soap opera kind of style. And they call them soap operas because they would get housewives or house husbands addicted to them and sell them soap and cleaning products. So they're called soap operas. And then they figured out they could get all of us addicted at night as well. And you had started with the evening soaps like Dallas and all those other kind of, right? And now you have the reality TV shows, and we must like it. The thing is, when we're caught in drama, we're getting all the adrenaline rush, noradrenaline, all the stress hormones are going. And whatever neurochemical mix is in our brain most of the time, we adapt to it, get used to it, and we get addicted to it. So our human culture is actually addicted to drama, right? And then we complain about it, we suffer with it, right? But that's kind of the human condition, right? So I think, upon reflection, we can see that, and we need to have a sense of humor about this. It is the human condition, and it is at the heart of every great novel and great whodunit, and but do we really want to? And maybe it's entertaining to watch reality TV. It's not really my bag, reality TV, but if we're gonna have a cooking show, I'd rather watch a chef just make a good meal than have to have people stabbing each other in the back and creating some big drama around having a cooking show, right? But nonetheless, it may be entertaining to watch that, but do you really want your life to be that? Do we want our life to be like a drama-filled reality TV show? I mean, maybe some of us would because it's entertaining and we get that adrenaline rush all the time. But in the long run, I'm not sure if the suffering is worth it. And actually, on the sad side, this literally destroys families, destroys children's lives, and plays out. I mean, people remember 9/11 when that happened. How did we all feel as Americans? We felt violated. Clearly, we were victimized, and especially the people who lost their lives. Pretty clear who the persecutors were. Our political leaders rode into the rescue, which we expected them to do. What did they do? They go start another war somewhere, which was related to a previous drama triangle, and then another war, and trillions of dollars later, trillions of dollars spent blowing people up instead of building hospitals and roads and schools and so forth. And I'm not trying to be political here, but you can go all the way back and easily connect that to that Middle East conflict that's been going on forever, and to the next war and and it's endless. It just goes on and on and on. And it's all about this dynamic. It's all about this fear-based, fear and survival mindset-based thing that we can get hooked into, right? It's like we live in a sea of floating drama hooks, right? And there's people just, like fly fishing. They're just throwing those drama hooks out all over the place. And when one of them has like John's name on it or Troy's name on it or Scott or Kate or Robert's name, I don't even know. It doesn't do anything for me. It goes right by. But here comes one of mine. Oh, that looks good. It's got a big juicy hook of bait on it. It's got a big sign saying fleet, and my mouth is watering and boom, I swallow and I'm off to the races. Hooked again, right? So, we get hooked. We get hooked in those dramas. And we don't even know it half the time. We're just in the drama. We're busy blaming and complaining and, persecuting and rescuing and being a victim, right? When we teach this in group settings, often when we have time, we'll get people in groups of 3, and we'll have you choose a drama that you commonly find yourself in getting involved in at work or at home. And then that group of 3 will choose one to play out that seems to have real clear roles. And then they assign the roles and then they play it out. We'll let them play it out for like 5 minutes and then we stop, debrief it, and then we do switch role, do it again. And people inevitably have the experience that once it hooks up where you got the victim, rescuer, persecutor dynamic going, then the roles start to switch and it just creates this toxic vortex of negativity. And I always ask people, did it seem like it was going to resolve itself anytime soon? People always say, no, it'll go on forever. And then it'll spin off other dramas. Like how many of you all have had the experience where somebody else has got a big drama going on and you feel yourself getting pulled into it, getting sucked in? It's like they're, come on, the drama triangle with us, right? Right? We've all had that experience. And in organizations, once that black hole of toxicity forms, it starts sucking in people and resources and time and energy, and it's incredibly destructive. Incredibly. This destroys companies, organizations. It's one of the reasons why, unfortunately, this is no dig about public safety at all. But when you have a lot of people, we all have drama triangles going on between our ears. We're human beings. We persecute ourselves, we rescue ourselves, we play the victim vis-a-vis ourselves. So when you got a lot of people working in a high stress situation that haven't been given the insights about this, and they're around each other and got all that challenge and all that stress, and it got the human condition going on, what do you get? You get a lot of drama, right? And that's why often public safety gets the rap of having kind of very negative culture, right? Well, that's what this is all about. It's about this, and it's also about what's called the negativity bias. I think we've talked about that in other sessions where, we're biologically set up to pay more attention to threat and negativity than we are to the good stuff, right? So at any rate, we're set up to be caught up in drama, but it doesn't have to be that way. Once we recognize this, we have the opportunity to shift and make some boundaries with it and transform it. So if I made the case that it might be worthwhile to learn to recognize drama and how to get ourselves unhooked from it, do you think that would be a valuable thing? Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to have I got a few more minutes, John? Okay. So we'll go back to the PowerPoint here. I'm on the right one. Yeah. So we're going to look at steps to get off the drama triangle. Well, the first step is to recognize it, right? That may seem obvious, but, do we always recognize it when we're caught up in drama? Well, no. Most of the time, we're too caught up in it to recognize it. we're busy blaming and feeling victimized and rescuing, right? So the first thing is to recognize it. And one of the easiest things to recognize is when I'm in the victim mindset, because if I'm upset, I'm in a drama, or I'm about to be in a drama, right? So anytime I'm feeling upset, triggered, emotionally reactive, frustrated, angry, I should train myself to go, drama, drama. What do I want to do here? Do I want to pour gas on the fire and keep going with this thing? Or do I want to figure out some way to extricate myself from it, right? Now, it may be a little more difficult to recognize when we're caught up in the rescuer mindset or the persecutor mindset, because we could easily be doing that in a very calm, cool, and collected way. So we need to learn and be curious about what's my style of being a persecutor? What's my style of being a rescuer? Now, we all have our styles. There's a tone of voice, there's a type of language used, expressions we use, physical postures we get in, right? That outrageous or self-justified, I am right kind of posture, whatever it is, right? So, I need to learn to recognize them and go, oh, okay, there goes Sleet doing his persecutor thing. There goes Sleet doing his rescuer thing, right? So we need to learn to recognize these and go, uh-oh, drama, drama. What do I want to do here? Once we realize there's a drama going on, then the next step is stop and take some space. Now, that may just be taking a little space internally, just go, okay, this is a drama. This is kind of, I feel myself getting sucked in here. I'm feeling, emotional. It feels scary or feels uncomfortable, or I feel, oh, yeah, I'd love to jump into this drama or whatever I'm feeling, but do I really want to do that? Take a little space, think about it, reflect, right? Or maybe I actually leave a meeting, step out and go to the bathroom or take a walk around the block, whatever I do to take some mental space, psychological space, or even physical space. Right? Stop and take some space. And along with that, we often say, do something to shift our state, So it might be, we've all heard when you're angry, do what before you do anything else? Count to 10, right? By the time we count to 10, what happens? We slow down a bit, right? Because the reptilian brain, when we're emotionally triggered and a fight or flight is happening, the reptilian brain is taking over. The reptilian brain couldn't count if its life depended on it. So by remembering to count, we regain access to our entire brain and the smart part of our brain and the neocortex, executive function. And also counting distracts us from the emotional trigger. If we take a deep breath, like the meditation that Katie was leading through, if we take 1, 2, we'll find ourselves slowing down, chilling out, and we'll shift our state. We'll be much better able to do the rest of us. So the next step we call use your voice, don't stuff it. Now, what do we mean by that? Now, using our voice literally at that moment verbally might be a bad idea because we might say something that's just going to create more drama. So what we mean there is really internally, rather than just stuffing it into that resentment bag we carry around with all the slings and arrows of life. Just the more we collect resentment after resentment after resentment, and then finally somebody triggers it up, we hit them, bam, over the head with 50 years worth of resentments, and we squash them like a bug. So we don't want to do that. And resentments undermine our own, holding on to old resentments and feelings really undermines our own life and happiness and joy in life. So instead, we want to deal with it. We want to own it. So we use language internally to own our feelings, and we use I statements. So, wow, I'm really angry. Well, I'm scared. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I'm frustrated. Right? I is the pronoun of ownership. Because usually when we're blaming, it's you, they, them, she, you're right, we're blaming somebody. So we go to I. So we're shifting from blaming language and projective language, where I'm projecting the cause of my emotions onto someone or something else. We're shifting from that to ownership language, I statements, and reflective language, like what's going on with me? Yeah, there's something going on out there, but what's going on with me? Well, I'm angry. Well, okay, I know it's one thing I know is it's my anger. I can feel it in my body. I may think it has something to do with somebody or something out there, but what I know for sure is it's my anger. And when we get triggered into our anger, it's the same anger we've experienced our whole life. From the very first time we ever got angry as like a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, right? It's that same anger that's getting triggered, right? So we shift into those I statements. What's going on with me? And then the next one is to reflect on my needs. Now, here's a clear distinction. Remember when I first started talking about the drama triangle, I said, it seems pretty compelling. Somebody does or says something, and I find myself I'm feeling angry or frustrated or scared or disappointed or hurt, right? It seems like there's direct causation. Well, let's think about that. How do our emotions actually arise? I would suggest that our emotions arise based on the perception of our needs getting met or not, based on the perception of our needs getting met or not. Now, what do I mean by that? So what do I mean by needs? Well, what are basic human needs? Food, warmth, shelter, right? What else do we need? Do we need love, relationship, belonging, inclusion? Absolutely. Do we need autonomy, self-agency, our own space? Yeah. Do we need respect? Do we need opportunity for creative expression? Those we all have. Raise your hand if you all have those needs. Raise your hand if those are needs that you have. Right, exactly. We all have the same needs. Human needs are universal, right? How do we feel when our needs are getting met? When we perceive our needs are being met, how do we feel? We feel good, right? We have all the warm and fuzzy emotions. We feel glad, contented, peaceful, happy, joyful, right? When we perceive our needs are being met. How about if I perceive that my needs are being blocked or thwarted or challenged or not met in some way? Well, then I start having different kinds of feelings, right? I start having all the challenging emotions. I start feeling anxious, fearful, angry, upset, disappointed, hurt, even hateful, envious, jealous, right? All out of the perception that my needs are not being met. Now, are my perceptions always accurate? Well, of course, mine are. I don't know about the rest of you, but mine are. No, of course they're not. At best, my perceptions are a limited interpretation of a limited set of the available data, right? I zero in on some data point, something gets my attention. Immediately, I start telling myself stories. We're meaning-making machines. We're storytellers. I start generating all kinds of thoughts about it, making all kinds of assumptions. And once I make an assumption about what's going on, what's somebody's motivation or intention, then if I was a good scientist, I would then stop. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to check out that assumption. I'm intentionally going to try to disprove my assumption. But that's not what we do, is it? No, our field of awareness narrows further, and we only see the data that supports our assumption, and we turn our assumption into a conclusion. And our field of vision narrows further, and we only see data supporting our conclusion. It becomes a belief. And once we have a belief, well, we're off to the races. We will, as human beings, will kill over our beliefs, right? That's called the ladder of inference. All conflict is built from assumptions up the ladder of inference. You get two people at the top of these ladders ready to kill each other, and they're both completely convinced, right? So we have to walk ourselves back down. Well, is that really true? Are my perceptions really accurate? So we can challenge our assumptions and our beliefs and so forth. Is that really true? And we may get down back into the open field of, well, I don't really know. Let me check it out. And we may find out that, actually that need's not being met very well there. And that one, maybe it was somebody put up a memo at work and I was off to the races. They've changed my job. I don't even have a job anymore. My need for financial security, inclusion, belonging, self-agency, and I'm up to, and then, I realized I didn't really even read the memo that carefully, right? But anyway, maybe I discovered some of my needs aren't being met so well. Well, is it that situation or that person's obligation to meet my need? Is that the only place or way in which I can get my need met? Right. So I walk my way back down here, and then at some point, maybe I can go back to someone when I'm completely untriggered. I've really processed it, which might take 5 minutes, might take 5 years, and have a conversation with somebody about needs. I remember went up yesterday. I was off today. I was hot under the collar. I'm glad I almost stormed in your office. I'm glad I didn't do it. It wouldn't have been good. You might have fired me. But, I've had time thinking about it. I realized it triggered a lot of old stuff for me. And at the same time, when these decisions get made, I know stuff rolls downhill and you get all kinds of decisions made above your level and you got to deal with it. But, maybe just sometimes, even if someone would come out, just kind of explain one of these memos before they go up on the bulletin board, or sometimes we could get a little more information from people around these decisions, right? I realize that can't happen all the time, but so you can have a conversation about needs where the other person's not going to feel attacked and they don't need to be on the defensive, right? And you may or may not be able to do that, have the skillfulness to do that at some point, right? But you may. And then sometimes we just have to make a boundary. Sometimes to get off the drama train, we just have to say, no, that doesn't work for me. You're going to speak to me like that? This isn't going anywhere. Let's come back to this next week. Or, speak to me that way again, or you touch me like that, I'm going to call HR. Or if you don't leave my office, my home right now, I'm going to call the police. Sometimes we have to make boundaries with people. And the more we can make a boundary without a lot of emotional charge behind it, it's actually more effective. Now, that can be hard to do when we're upset, but if we're doing all these other steps, then we can just say no. And when we make good, clean boundaries, people usually just go the other way. People that are looking for drama, they're just going to go somewhere else and look for somebody else they can get tangled with, right? But if our boundary has a lot of emotional charge behind it, that can kind of keep the game going, right? But anyway, sometimes we just have to do our best to make boundaries. And of course, in a public safety field, public safety professionals are in the business of making boundaries with people who are not good with having boundaries in their own lives, right? They're out of control to one degree or another. They're causing public harm, or right. And so the criminal justice system, public safety system, is about holding those boundaries for people that aren't able to hold boundaries themselves. Why? Because they didn't get good boundaries modeled to them, or whatever happened, the circumstances of their life, and they're not in a place where they're doing well around that. So the system has to come in and provide that, right? So anyway, this is making sense about how we might go from that place where, we kind of swallowed the hook, right? And we gotten triggered into that fight or flight response. And we feel we're in survival in the brain, where we know it or not. In the back of our brain, there's a conversation: I'm gonna die. I gotta fight like hell or run like hell. I gotta do something here, And then we're off to the races, and we go into these strategies of either playing the victim card or persecuting or rescuing, and then it's once we get other players to play with this, it's off to the races, right? And we've all seen this. It's just everywhere in our life, right? But once you see this and learn to recognize it, then we actually have options and go, okay, how much of this drama do I want to participate in? Can I take some space here, find some way to untangle myself from it, give myself more options, a little less suffering in my own life, and maybe participate in a little less co-created suffering with others, right? So that's what we're talking about with how to get off the drama triangle. Is that making sense? So I'm just going to show one last slide here briefly, and then I think I'll finish my presentation. I've gone on quite a long time here. See, how can I close? I don't. Where's the chat? Have I got the participants open? No. For some reason, I don't see the chat thing anymore. I can't seem to close that. All right, no big deal. Let me go here, and then I'll go here and share screen again. Okay, so these are some steps to avoid the drama triangle. Some steps to avoid the drama triangle, right? So I would invite people to consider that. Number one, do not act when triggered. I would invite people to consider taking that as a vow, like a life vow, life commitment. Because when I'm emotionally triggered, I'm actually a danger to myself and others. I'm in a semi-psychotic state. The smart part of my brain is disengaged to one degree or another. How many people here have been really emotionally triggered, and then you said or did something you later regretted, right? Made a big mess, right? Right? So the first thing is, when I'm emotionally triggered, I have one and one only job, and that's to get myself untriggered before I do anything else. So do not act when triggered. And then learn to state shift and resource yourself. Learn to count to 10. Learn to do something like all the self-regulation tools we teach here in this community of practice, right? The straw breathing, the box breathing, tactical breathing, right? Or the deep breathing. Anything I can do to release the hold of the reptilian brain, the fight or flight response, get back into the whole brain and access to the smart part of my brain so I can make better decisions. Then have good boundaries. We get into a lot of conflict because we have poor boundaries. If we have poor boundaries, why is that? Well, probably we didn't have good boundaries modeled to us in one way or another. So we need boundaries are pretty, not easy all the time, but pretty simple in principle. It's knowing when to say yes and when to say no to ourselves and others. If I can't say no to others, what does my life look like? Chaos and overwhelm. If I can't say yes to others, am I going to have any relationship? No. So the wisdom is knowing when to say yes and when to say no. Same thing with myself. If I can't say no to myself, am I going to accomplish much in life? If I can't delay immediate gratification to work on things that take more effort, no, I won't accomplish much. If I can't say yes to myself, am I going to have much joy and fun in life? No. So again, it's the wisdom of knowing when to say yes and when to say no. And we can get better at it. If we're terrible at saying no, just say no. The world, you'll find a world when somebody says, will you do that? Will you do that? Will you do this? Will you do that? We're people please. Our tendency is to people please and say yes all the time and get overwhelmed. Just practice saying no. And you realize, oh, wow, they went and asked somebody else. The world didn't end. Or if you're not good at saying yes, say yes and see what happens there, right? Avoid gossiping and rescuing behavior. It's pretty obvious that creates trauma. make clear agreements and we get into all kinds of relationship, partnerships, business deals that we have no business being involved in because we never did our due diligence, because we're conflict avoidant. And, we're just going to go along whistling Dixie. I hope it'll work out. And then it blows up. And we don't even have an agreement, right? So make clear agreements. Now, that may be just having a clear verbal statement. It may be a handshake. It may be in some sense, we need a contract. We need lawyers to look at a contract. Just depends on what it is, right? But make clear agreements and then have integrity and keep those agreements. And, if the world shifts on its axis and we absolutely can't keep an agreement, which could happen, then instead of avoiding the person, avoiding the situation, actually go renegotiate the agreement, proactively renegotiate the agreement, and then keep it. If we find we're constantly renegotiating agreements, that's something we might want to look at, what's going on there. And then these next two come from a great little book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Don't make assumptions. All conflict is based on assumptions. Check out your assumptions. Don't take it personally. The minute we take it personally, we're hooked, right? It may feel it's hard because it feels somebody's yelling at me, or it feels personal, but it's really not. It's their stuff. It's their dream. It's their suffering. I just happen to be the person that walked by and got in the way that day. It's not personal. And then finally, the name of another book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, because there's going to be plenty of big stuff in life to deal with, right? So anyway, that's it. That's it. And your homework, if you choose to accept it, is over the next few days, pay attention to the dramas, pay attention to the dynamics, the drama triangle you see at work, at home, on TV, wherever, and the world around you, and just be curious about it. And this is not about demonizing. This is the human condition, right? But, do we want to be trapped? How much time do we want to spend unconsciously trapped in it and suffering with it? Versus having the option to see it, recognize it, not demonize it, have compassion for all of us about it, but, walk the other way, right? That's one less drama I'm going to be involved in today. One less chunk of suffering I'm going to be involved in. All right, that's it. That's Karpman's drama triangle.
Great, thank you, Fleet. And you're going to do a part 2, and you're going to sort of give us a bit of an antidote.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a part 2 and kind of another way forward with transforming this and how we can work with these human dynamics in some positive ways. But anyway, it's just this one in itself, just being able to see it coming and have an option of whether we're going to get hooked or not. One thing is also recognizing our hooks, because we all have different hot buttons, emotional triggers, hooks, right? And if we learn to recognize them, usually they're just there for like 5 or 10 seconds. Oh, there it is. Oh, it looks good. I like swallow. Oh, but I don't want to go to this. And it's gone, right? Just a few seconds, right? And we can avoid a lot of suffering. At home, our partner, our spouse says something that normally kind of gets us going. Just hold your seat for a minute. Take a breath. Okay, smile. One less fight, right? Yeah.
Great. Are you willing to open up to questions?
Sure, yeah. Any questions, comments, insights, anything, please. Yeah, would really enjoy that. Please jump right in. Don't be bashful. I know none of us have any drama going on in our lives ever.
So just appreciative. Go ahead, Kate.
Go ahead, Scott. You got the floor.
Just appreciative. The visual, the stories. Something says that when I can see it, I might not necessarily be it. If I can claim it,
That's
I
great
can
expression.
So I appreciate the language. I wasn't familiar totally with this triangle formally, and so thank you. Very supportive.
Great, thank you, Scott. Yeah, I like that expression. If you can see it, you don't have to be it, right? Yeah, that's really the first step in all these kind of things about our human condition, is first learning to see it, to recognize it, right? Yeah, that awareness. Katie, you were about to say something.
So, we covered this through the Center for Mindfulness and Public Safety at the sheriff's office, and it was a really impactful session. And then you just taught this through EMI. We just did that one about 2 weeks ago, right? And we've been talking in our group about how to, kind of incorporate this, and whether it's something that we teach, to people, or whether it's something that we just kind of recognize in ourselves, and like, use to kind of constantly shift out of this. But as you may or may not know, we just moved into a new jail at the sheriff's
Mhm.
office, and I am hoping, or I'm planning on, hopefully, with your permission, taking this and your second presentation on to posters. Just as this reminder, just to, like, here's the
Yeah.
one side, and here's the other side, because it's really a pretty, when you look at it, it's such a visually, like, simple,
Yeah.
uh because it's so human, as you say. Just to go, am I being the victim right now? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
am I being the persecutor right now? And just kind of stop and ask a question without having to go really deep into that. So I
Yeah.
really appreciated this work, and I'm
Yeah.
really,
You have total permission to do that. We'll provide you with the posters,
yeah,
with our little brand on the bottom, of course.
that
But,
sounds great.
but
Yeah.
no, I've been a business organizational consultant for 22, 23 years, and worked with a lot of companies using this material and others. And a number of my clients have these posters all over the company, in the offices, out in the factory floor, the warehouse, and they have that whole big poster with the drama zone, the empowerment zone, the drama triangle, and they use it all the time. And supervisors, workers come into a supervisor, got a big conflict going, they go, okay, let's unpack this. What's going on here? And it's just really helpful to people to, like Scott said, you see it, you don't have to be it. You recognize, you have that self-awareness. And yeah, the posters can be very helpful in terms of an organizational culture.
So, Fleet, I've been working with this in my life for about 6 or 7 years now, trying to work with it deeply. And I find one of the big challenges is when I feel like I'm right? Like, it doesn't come up as, oh, that's a drama hook. It's like, I'm right, because somebody just says something that's wrong.
Right.
But then the heat comes and the anger is like, I've got to rectify this misunderstanding, right? So, and that's when I try to hold, but it's tough. It's not that easy, because it doesn't come up as the word drama. It comes up as, I'm right and you're wrong. So often, for me, it does.
Absolutely.
And then I want to correct it.
Well, that's a great thing to recognize. Again, it's the first step is recognize, right? And so that's one of those things we can recognize. When we have that strong feeling, I'm right, that's drama. The minute that comes up, that thing, I'm right, that's drama. If it was, if something comes up and go, oh, I'm not sure what's going on, I'm kind of clear about that, but maybe they have an idea position. But if it comes up, I'm right, drama. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means that's drama, right? Because you got that emotional trauma. I'm right. And that solidifies and you're off to the races, because that means somebody else is wrong. And that means, you either got to be the victim, or you got to be the persecutor, or you got to be the rescuer. And then they're going to get defensive, and they're going to be the persecutor, the victim, or the rescuer, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. And that other point that you made, like, when I hold and don't explain what really needs to be explained, because it really needs to be explained.
What you think needs to be explained. Yeah.
I know that I'm right. So anyways, I hope, but if I hold, I mean, it can be as short as 90 seconds. And it's like the cloud clears a little bit and the heat settles a little bit. And it's like, it's not even worth it.
Yeah. And maybe upon deep reflection, maybe you weren't right after all. You never know.
I haven't found that.
Yeah.
Maybe once.
Maybe once, right?
Maybe once.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really an entry point into this work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that being right is really addictive. We love to be right, right? I'm right, they're wrong, right? Yeah. We get emotional payoffs for doing all these kind of drama zone behaviors, but the thing is, are they really in our long-term self-interest? What do they create in the long term? Generally, they just create more suffering for ourselves and others. And there are other options on how to access genuine personal power and power with others, not power over or under, but power with others, and really genuine self-agency and self-leadership in healthy ways. And we'll explore that in the second episode of this in 2 weeks, right, Robert? Yeah.